The good news is that you probably already have the tackle you need to fish most small streams. There's a tendency to want a short, tiny rod for small streams, but a longer rod is often desirable, something between 8 and 9 feet long. So a lot of people think you need a super short rod to fish small streams, but that's usually not the case. In a mountain stream like this, you want to hold lots of line off the water. You want basically just part of your leader and the fly on the water. And with a super short rod, you just can't hold that much line off the water. So a longer rod sometimes helps. There's nothing wrong with scaling down your tackle though, and some people just like the idea of using a smaller rod for these mostly smaller fish. If you really get down into the weeds in tiny brushy streams, a rod from 6 to 7.5 feet might give you a bit more room to cast. But think about it, you're only getting about a foot of extra room for casting with a shorter rod. If you're gonna do this kind of stuff, you need to modify your tackle a little bit. Most modern fly rods are optimized to cast about 35 feet of line. The problem is, in small streams, you're often casting just a few feet of line. So one of the ways you can do this is you can get a rod that has more of a full flex action that's optimized to cast shorter lengths of line, like this Superfine. The other thing you can do is you can use a fiberglass rod. Fiberglass, by nature, or bamboo fly rods are slower action. They'll bend more at short casts, and they'll be able to throw those short lines. Plus, they roll cast better. And a third option, if you don't want to get another rod just for small streams, is to overline your normal fly rod by 1 or 2 line sizes. So if you have a 4-weight rod and you want to fish really small streams, then put a 5 or 6-weight line on it. That'll make the rod bend more, it'll roll cast easier, and it'll be much better in small streams. The rod size you choose, knowing that you might have to overline it, should reflect the flies you use. Typically on small streams, we use flies that are surprisingly large because the fish are hungry and often not selective. Plus, it's nice to fish a fly you can see. Dry flies in sizes 10 through 14 are pretty standard, with nymphs in the same sizes. So 4 and 5 weight lines are perfect. You can go lighter if you want to use a smaller rod, or as heavy as a 6 weight if that's all you have, but I would not go any heavier than a 6. Lines and leaders for small streams couldn't be easier. You need a floating line and a 7.5 foot 4X leader for nearly every small stream you fish. Most of this fishing is dry dropper or dry fly fishing, and often your line doesn't even touch the water. Even if it does, the water's so shallow, so a sinking line would only get you into trouble. Keep it simple. Leaders for this kind of fishing should be standard nylon tapered leaders, anywhere from 7.5 feet long to 9 feet long. You can use longer leaders if you like, and sometimes you need them in the flat meadow streams. But for the most part, because both casts and drifts will be short, a shorter leader turns over better, and even with a short leader, you won't put your fly line over the fish. So for small mountain streams like this, there's no better tool than a tenkara rod. It's very simple fly fishing. It has no reel. You tie the line to the end of the rod, and it has no fly line. What you have is a piece of level line that's about 1.5 times the length of the rod, and it's highly visible. It's highly visible monofilament. And then on the end, you just have 4 feet of 5X tippet. That's all you need. One of the biggest advantages of a tenkara rod is that you have no fly line, so you can keep that light line in the air. You keep all your line off the water, just a little bit of your tippet, and you get really great drag-free float.